Welcome to Midcard Maniacs. I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
Winter is here. Sting has arrived in AEW. Today we're going to talk about what his role could be. Yep. I don't usually pop by myself. That's a weird thing to say. When I watch Dynamite, I'm pretty quiet. I'm just sitting there tweeting away, enjoying the show. But when Sting came out, I lost my shit. I screamed a little bit, and then I clapped a lot, and I was just freaking out for a good 3 to 4 minutes as he just kind of walked around the ring and started looking at everybody's faces. And I'm thinking of the possibilities. And that's exactly why he walked to everybody's corner, because they want you to start thinking, and that's why we're here today. So let's discuss. I think the most obvious thing is that Sting will be a mentor for Darby Allin. This is something that we've talked about in the past on some previous prediction videos, because we've seen Darby Allin hanging out in the stands. There were rumblings that Sting was gonna come, and it just seems like Darby Allin could be a great protege for Sting.
In the way of him being a mentor, Darby's got the TNT title right now. I think it would be more interesting to have them go, instead of a manager and protege, but in a tag team role, because there are a lot of tag teams in AEW, and even though it's you want to add another tag team, I think building characters and developing, working together in the ring instead of him just shouting on the sideline,
like an Arn Anderson.
Yeah, could have more potential, because Sting, 61 years old, probably can still take a couple of bumps and do maybe 5 minutes of wrestling.
Right. It's important to know that we understand that he's his career was basically ended in WWE. However, there's no reason he can't do some minor tag team work. He's not going to take Canadian destroyers all over the ring, I don't think. He could probably do a stinger splash or two. I'd be interested in it. I don't know if I want to see it though.
I know, it's one of those things, because do you really just want to see Sting standing in a corner with a bat?
Yes, I don't know. It's really tough to say, because we've seen legends come back before and absolutely fail. Goldberg is a great example. Everyone was very hyped to see Goldberg come back, and it was just not the greatest match. That's for sure. So I don't know if I'd rather have Sting as a memory as a great wrestler, or see him come in and potentially fail. I'm nervous about it, that's for sure.
It would be kind of interesting to have it where if Darby Allin is running into trouble, you have him going against Team Taz, little promos beforehand where he's don't worry, I'll always have your back. And then once Darby, when the numbers are against him, Sting just drops from the rafters
with his bat, scares everybody away. See, that's something that I think is more feasible than actually having him in a tag team matches. I'm sure it's gonna happen. I'm sure we're gonna have Jericho versus Sting at some point. Whether that's gonna be a great match or not, I don't know.
I think it'll be good, because Jericho, because unlike when you see legends go against certain wrestlers, it's usually legend versus legend, or legend versus young up and comer who doesn't have that ring awareness. Jericho, though a legend, can still put people over and control a match. And Sting is such a professional, it'll be very limited in what they do, but more of a grappling, high spot grappling.
If that main event's any pay-per-view, people are tuning in. The amount of people talking about Sting coming to AEW is insane. And for good reason, because there's so much opportunity. It is worth noting that on AEW's roster website, Sting is in the wrestler section, and he's not hanging out with Tully Blanchard and stuff. He has a record graphic, so it seems like he's going to be a performer to some degree.
So here is what could be the great feud, okay? He gets close with Darby Allin. Darby stays the champion. Sting is slowly building up wins until that moment that he just goes for the TNT championship.
Right, the protege has to beat the mentor, basically.
Because he was Mr. TNT, so he wants that title. Imagine heel turn Sting.
That's good stuff. I'd like to see the Wolfpack red paint, though.
You like to see that. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here Impact style, main event Mafia, slicked back hair with the dark glasses in a suit, just looking Like Andrew Divoff from Wishmaster?
I would be down with that, and only if we could also get a Scott Steiner walking in. We need some big Papa Pump at some point.
And the Book of Man?
And, well, maybe. Bookerman on his podcast does talk about AEW, and he was talking about Sting.
Or like the return of Kurt Angle. Like Angle's like debut in AEW is to help Sting win the TNT title.
There's a lot of great things that could happen just with legends alone, with minimal wrestling. I want to stress that. Like, I don't want crazy AEW style wrestling. We all know that it's the land of super kicks and destroyers, and I don't want that from these guys. I want it to be kind of like FTR style, like just throw hands.
It would be interesting to see Sting leading a group against the rumored new Four Horsemen faction. Because the history of Sting and Flair and Anderson and all those guys and Tully is you have like the classic Four Horsemen and then like Sting being like, I'm going to make my group to go against you guys.
Who's in that group? I feel like Darby would be in it. Yeah. I think Darby's going to be tied to Sting to some degree.
If we're choosing people who I want to be in it, I think I want John Silver in it. I want him to break away from the Dark Order, but
no,
you can't.
But that's not the point of like a Dark Crow type faction. Like, it would have to be dark people. Like, I could see...
Unless you're building up with this whole John Silver and Hangman thing, and Hangman being rumored in the Four Horsemen. That's two people in the faction. Hangman and John Silver.
That's the worst faction I've ever heard of in my life.
Hey, you know what?
No, keep that shit on PTE. Sting, Darby, and like who are darker people? Like potentially like an Abaddon character could work, or even like Ryzen, that guy. He doesn't show up that often, but he's got to be signed to AEW. He's been in the crowd for so long, and he's like a dark priest guy.
What if Lance Archer decides to join them with like Jake Roberts being in there? Because you figure if they're doing a Four Horsemen, you're gonna have like Arn and Tully.
So then you see Lance Archer working with Darby Allin. That would be pretty cool. And then eventually you could have the inner turmoil as well, of course, because Lance deserves the TNT championship. At some point he'll get it. Yes, that could work.
All right,
and it would be an interesting like mix-up because you got like the big guy and the small crazy guy. I mean, they're both crazy to some degree, but I can see like Lance Archer just picking up Darby and throwing him at people.
So now we need a tag team in there. So if we look at the AEW roster, what tag team do you think stands out?
As far as like the darker...
Not even the darker. Who... Because like you could change the gimmick.
I think TH2. They need something. And they are really, really solid. And I don't think that their current gimmick is really anything. It's like they're breakdancers in neon green suits. Jack Evans is a natural heel anyway, and Helico seems heelish as well. They're kind of tweeners, but they lean a little bit closer to the heel side, so I think that they could work well with like that whole team.
I like that, because I think that's a great idea, having them like refresh their gimmick, repackage them. But when I think aesthetics and how they would look, Darby Allin, Lance Archer being this beast, and then Butcher and Blade.
That would be good. I would be very for that.
So you have those guys sitting there with Jake Roberts, Sting, and then in the other side, you would have Tully, Arn, FTR, and probably Shawn Spears and Hangman.
But then do we have a woman on that side too? Because we're going to have Bunny with the blade.
So Leva Bates.
She would be too goofy for FTR's not dealing with her shit. There's no way. There's no fucking way. She is like kind of going heel side, but like, I don't know.
So what other woman do you think could...
I think it would be like Kylan King, who is a really strong, dominant force that you can definitely see Tully straight up saying like, hey, you remind me of my daughter, kind of. I know that's a strong statement here. I mean, Tessa is still in negotiations with both WWE and AEW apparently. So it could very well be Tessa Blanchard. But I think that Kylan King, even though she is like a newer wrestler, she's got the strength. She's big, like she's tall, and she's intimidating. And it's somebody that I can see like Arn Anderson and Tully saying like this would be a good fit. And I think that she needs a place to go to kind of progress her character because she doesn't really have much going on, but she's got what it takes.
I would like to see that too. I think it would be a good fit. And it's nice because when you're trying to bring in younger and newer faces, you're putting them in these storylines to like bring them up to the next level.
Right. So we kind of went on a little tangent of like the Four Horsemen and everything as well, but those were our thoughts, our initial thoughts on Sting joining AEW and the potential there for him. What do you guys think his role is going to be? Let us know in the comments. Like this video, and if it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything Midcard Maniacs.
Yeah.